Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really cool tool called n8n that's designed to help you conquer all that repetitive, boring work. You know, if you've ever felt like a bit of a robot at your job, this might just be the thing that gives you your time and your sanity back.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? Your whole day is just this endless loop of copying data from a form, pasting it into a spreadsheet, then you got to manually send an email, and oh yeah, don't forget to update your CRM. It's a huge time sink, and honestly, it's just draining. But what if you could make all of that happen automatically?
Well, that's where n8n comes in. Think of it as your personal workflow engine. It's open source, it's got AI smarts, and it acts like a central hub that connects all your favorite apps. We're talking over 400 of them. The best part? You build these powerful automations visually, just dragging and dropping. No need to be a coding whiz.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll cover the basics, what n8n actually is. Then we'll peek under the hood to see how it works. After that, and this is the fun part, we'll get our hands dirty and build our first workflow. Then we'll unlock some serious superpowers, and finally, map out your path to becoming a total pro.
Okay, let's kick things off. What exactly is this n8n thing? And why are so many founders and teams absolutely buzzing about it?
Well, the reasons are pretty compelling. I mean, at its core, it saves you a massive amount of time by cutting out those manual tasks. But it goes deeper. It can actually replace several different expensive software tools. And here's the real kicker. Because you can self-host it, it's often 10 times cheaper, and you get full control over all your data. This is automation that really scales with you.
So how does all this automation magic actually happen? Well, it all boils down to just 4 core concepts. Seriously, once you get these 4 ideas, you'll be well on your way to building some incredible stuff.
First up, we have workflows. A workflow is the big picture. It's the entire automation process from start to finish. Think of it like a recipe. When a new form is submitted, then send an email, then shoot a Slack alert, and then update the CRM. That whole sequence, that's your workflow.
So if a workflow is the recipe, then nodes are the individual ingredients. Each node is a single action, kind of like a digital Lego block. You've got nodes for apps, nodes for logic like if/then statements, and even nodes for custom functions. You just snap them together to build whatever you can imagine.
So what kicks the whole thing off? That's the trigger. The trigger is that first domino that falls and gets everything going. It's the event that tells your automation, okay, time to run. This could be anything. Someone submitting a form, a set schedule, like every Monday at 9 a.m., or maybe a new entry popping up in your database.
And last but not least, data passing. This is huge. It's how all those Lego blocks talk to each other. When a trigger fires, it creates data, like a person's name and email. That data gets passed from one node to the next in a simple format called JSON. The most crucial skill here is learning how to map that data. Basically telling the email node, hey, this piece of information is the email address. Honestly, if you can master that, you've pretty much won half the battle.
All right, enough theory. The absolute best way to learn this stuff is by doing. So let's switch gears and actually build our very first workflow. This is where it's all going to click for you.
We're going to start with a classic, automatically sending an email whenever someone fills out a form. And look how simple our ingredients are. We just need a webhook trigger node, which is basically just a special link that listens for data, an email node to send our message, and if we want, a Google Sheets node to keep a nice log of everything.
So here's how those concepts actually come together in practice. First, you add your webhook trigger. n8n gives you a unique URL that you just paste into your form settings. Then, you add an email node and you just map the data. You literally point and click to tell it which field from the form is the person's email. Add a Google Sheet node to save it all, and then you just flip the switch to on. And just like that, you have a live working automation. It's awesome.
So congratulations, you've officially built your first automation. But trust me, that is just the beginning. Now let's talk about the features that are going to truly unlock your automation superpowers.
First off, don't get overwhelmed thinking you need to learn all 400+ nodes at once. The source guide we're looking at points out this really powerful 80-20 rule. If you can just master about 10 of the most useful nodes, things like the webhook, the HTTP request, and some logic nodes, you'll be able to solve about 80% of any problem you come across.
And speaking of essential nodes, let me introduce you to the most powerful one in the entire toolbox, the HTTP request node. Think of this thing as your universal key. If n8n doesn't have a specific pre-built node for an app you use, it doesn't matter. As long as that app has an API, which is just a way for programs to talk to each other, you can use this node to connect to it. This opens up a literally infinite world of possibilities.
Now, for your ultimate superpower, the function node. Okay, so while n8n is mostly no code, this little node lets you inject small bits of JavaScript for when you need some extra muscle. You can use it to transform data, like combining a first and last name field into a full name, apply really custom logic, or even validate fields. This gives you truly limitless flexibility.
So what does all this look like in the real world? Well, just imagine this. For your sales team, you could automatically enrich new leads with company data the second they hit submit on a form. Or for marketing, how about auto-creating draft blog posts in your CMS, right from a simple Google Sheet? For your ops team, what if you could auto-generate and email out invoices every single month without anyone lifting a finger? Or for a product team, instantly triggering the perfect email onboarding sequence the moment a new user signs up. I mean, the possibilities here, they're really endless.
Okay, you've seen what's possible. So let's wrap this up with a clear roadmap that'll take you from the workflow you just built all the way to becoming an n8n expert.
But first, let me save you probably about 50 hours of frustration. These are the most common mistakes beginners make. Always test each node one by one to find bugs. Always check the input and output data to see how it's flowing. And please, if a workflow gets too big and messy, just split it up into smaller ones. It'll make your life so much easier.
Your learning journey can really be broken down into 4 phases. Start as a beginner. Just build about 10 simple workflows to get comfortable. Then you'll move to intermediate, where you start using those function nodes and working with APIs. Soon you'll be at the advanced level, building complex internal systems. And finally, you can reach the expert phase, building automations for paying clients or even creating your own custom nodes for the community.
So, what's the big takeaway here? You know, I think the author of our source guide, Avkash Kakadia, really says it best. Automation doesn't replace people, it replaces repetition. This isn't about getting rid of jobs. It's about getting rid of the boring, repetitive parts of our jobs. It frees us all up to be more creative, more strategic, and ultimately, more human. So the real question is, what's the first repetitive task you're going to automate?